And we are live here on bourbonblog.com. Welcome you to the show here on Bourbon Blog Live with Colin of Kings County. Colin Spoelman, my good friend. How's everything there with you, Colin?
Great, good, happy.
Excellent. Big congrats, because for those of you watching, we are going to be trying the new 7-year-old. This is the oldest whiskey Kings County has ever done. We're going to be trying that in a few minutes, but lots has been happening there. I mean, this is in part to celebrate your 10th anniversary, right?
Yeah. So we've always been laying down whiskeys to go, for sort of higher age statements. And we, as a distillery, have only been around for 10 years. So to be able to finally start to bring some of these barrels, so we start to have a waterfall of 7-year-old barrels, of which we'll start to pull from for these kind of single barrel releases. And so this is the first of those from a 53-gallon barrel distilled in 2013. And in a way, kind of the most traditional bourbon that we've done, mostly because of the length of the aging and the size of the barrel. And but it's it's a whiskey that I'm very proud of, and I think stands different from the whiskeys that we've released so far.
Right.
But certainly a great whiskey, and to be able to start to have age statements that compare to what comes out of Kentucky, that even just having a reasonably medium aged whiskey is something that not even very few craft distillers have done, and within that, to have a bourbon that's this old from a craft distillery outside of Kentucky, Tennessee, Indiana. That's very unusual. I don't know.
You don't see it that often at all. I mean, it's very rare, right?
I think this could be, I'll just go ahead and throw out my hypothesis, but I think this is the oldest whiskey distilled outside of bourbon country, which I include Kentucky, Tennessee, Indiana, and that.
Old stuff that you guys had been keeping back for a while, almost since the beginning of Kings County, right?
Yeah. Well, 2013, we were sort of on our way. It wasn't sort of earliest days, but we were, let's say we were big enough to fill 53-gallon barrels,
right?
Which wouldn't have been the case in 2010, 2011. But yeah, certainly filled on a 26-gallon still. So our daily output was about 10 gallons a day. So it took us 5 days to fill this barrel back in that era. Wow. So
this was a small barrel then.
No, this is a full-size barrel.
This was one of your, because back in that day you were mainly doing smaller barrels. This is
mainly smaller barrels, but we knew we wanted to get some older age statements, some larger format barrels. So this is the first of those that we've pulled. We have quite a few more.
Quite a few more. And this is a single barrel product. Was there only one barrel for this release, or were there several barrels?
So we had 2 barrels that turned 7 this year.
Okay.
And we picked the better one, and the other one, we'll see if it, what happens to that. I mean, it's probably not going to get worse. I mean, maybe I don't want to say that barrels never deteriorate with age, because they do, but more likely than not, it'll just become very nice at 12 years. And
I'll drink some with you. I'll try.
Right. We'll see what the market is interested in.
We'll see. But I mean, this is I'm already nosing, and I already have some of this poured. Your 7-year, and I have some of your flagship poured as well. And of course, for those of you watching, I know I've already seen quite a few friends from New York and across the country that love your products. If you have any questions for Colin about this release or any of their releases, ask them down before. We're thrilled to be the first live broadcast to try the oldest whiskey ever from Kings County at 7 years old, and potentially it's one of if not the oldest outside of Kentucky like this. Definitely, even in New York State, I don't see whiskeys getting this old.
Right.
This is very exciting.
Yeah, I did my research on it, and I know Garrison Brothers had an 8-year, but it wasn't. There was a finish on it, so it was some amount of time in the first fill, some amount of time in the second fill. This is 1 barrel all the way through, straight bourbon whiskey.
All the way through. This is extremely exciting. Well, let's go ahead and if you all are watching and already enjoying some Kings County, go ahead and pour whatever Kings County you have in front of you and tell us what you're sipping. But we'll go ahead and pour the flagship, which The flagship, being one of my favorite bourbons, just in the world. I mean, I really like what you guys do. I always have, from the very first time I ever tried this many years ago. You know, I really thought your bourbon always has tasted so much older than it is. I mean, it has this deep flavor.
Yeah. Well, that historically I would chalk up to pot distillation, and one of the other things about this 7-year that's especially exciting is it's the oldest. Again, I'll caveat it because there might be one out there, but as far as I know, this is the oldest age-stated pot distilled bourbon.
Wow!
So bourbon is rarely pot distilled. Most people make it on a column still. Right. Not a huge distinction unless you're a distiller, and then it's the whole ball game. But a pot still usually gets you a little bit more mouthfeel, a little bit more flavor, and you sacrifice a little yield.
Right.
So we have pot stills. Woodford Reserve, very famously, is one of the Kentucky brands that does pot distillation. So for some of what goes into Woodford Reserve, but we've always sworn by it, and certainly has a lot to do with the character of our flagship bourbon.
Right. It's so good. There's just such great character on this from the beginning to end. There's the signature characters that we all know and love on just a good bourbon, the caramels, the vanillas, but it goes something so much deeper. The barrel, the spice. I mean, I always have gotten just a variety of spices on this, potentially just a hint of cloves sometimes. Just really, even that's kind of really robust, beautiful coffee note. What do people tell you they get on this that they love?
So, ask that question again.
What do people, when you're doing tasting, what do they tell you they get on this? What are the flavor notes they come away with? What do they love about this?
I mean, Christmas spice, a little bit of like chocolate, a little bit of clove is absolutely dead on. But caramel, vanilla, things that are common to a lot of bourbons. But our distillation is very low. It's very much for flavor as opposed to yield, which is something I'm sure every distiller says that, but really focusing in on that kind of caramel corn, kind of classic bourbon flavor without a lot of the turpentine and acetone and solventy higher tier notes that can make a bourbon, have more bite, make it more harder. Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. And always some great creations. We there's always this one, the peated bourbon. We tried the Applejack this past summer, which we loved, but very rarely does it happen that a distillery releases something like this. In fact, it's never happened. And this 7-year-old bourbon, again, it's going to go on sale this week then, right? This week at the distillery?
Yeah, so this is a distillery exclusive. It's a single barrel, so we have 189 bottles of it. It's going to go on sale through the distillery's website Wednesday at noon Eastern. And you can buy it to ship to any New York State address, or you can pick it up at the distillery. So you don't have to be in New York to pick it up. You just have to find a way to get to New York sometime in the next 2 weeks. We'll hold it
for 2 weeks
for a reasonable amount of time, not an interminable amount of time. But so it's pretty cool, and I'll show you the bottle.
Yeah.
So this has this. It really doesn't photograph very well. Sorry, I'm trying to get it into the light.
There's the website. Yes.
It's got a little foil gold thing, and it says 7-year on it.
Yeah. So it's actually that show that once again near the foil. That's actually in a whole different.
It was
in foil color.
Yes, it was a great idea when we thought we would be selling these bottles in person. And now that we're selling them through pictures, it's a little harder to communicate it. But it's a cool looking bottle, I promise.
You'll always have the 7-year. When you look at it, it'll stand apart from the other ones.
The regular whiskeys that we make. Yeah.
That way, in case you stumble in and you're wondering, which one's my 7-year? I want to get a sip of that.
Yes, right. It's the one that reflects the dying sunlight.
All the other dying sunlight you're going to see.
Right. It's the perfect one for magic hour.
Absolutely. So you're pouring a little of that. I already got a little here.
Yeah, I'm going to crack it open.
And again, completely a single barrel. You tried the 2 different barrels you liked this one the best? You'd been tasting these for a while, kind of?
So yeah, we've been tracking these barrels all the way through, and certainly was Ryan's notes were it's good at 4 years. You sure you don't want to pull it? Or then it was good at 5 years. You sure you don't want to pull it? And I was kind of holding out for a higher age statement, knowing that that's where the audience certainly is. So it felt right to pull it this year. Something to celebrate in the midst of a lot going on.
Oh, absolutely. And this again, partially celebrating just a lot going on, and partially celebrating your 10th anniversary. So as you continue to celebrate the 10th anniversary, will we see other releases like this, or?
I mean, that was the idea. I don't know. I don't know how long we can celebrate the 10-year. I mean, I guess we have to stop in April, and I don't know how many more superlative barrels we're going to have before April.
Right.
So I don't want to pre-promise them, but if we come up with something great, we'll definitely share it with people.
Right.
So yeah, so
let's give it a sip here. Cheers, Colin. Cheers to 10 years.
Cheers.
And cheers to also 7 years as well.
Yeah.
Wonderful nose. And this is the same recipe of the original. This is completely
same recipe as a flagship. The only difference here is this was made on much smaller equipment. Same farm, same malt that we're using, same mash bill, just slightly different aging profile in terms of the size of the barrel and the length of time that it's aged. And the stills were different shape, but both pot stills.
Really something else. This is again only 129. Are these 375s or 750s?
These are 750s and 189 we have.
89.
And so in contrast to
so good.
This is the finish on it is so much longer. I mean that happens a lot with older whiskeys.
Yeah, it's serious finish.
Very dry. The flagship is a little sweeter. This is much drier. A lot more of that kind of like powdered cinnamon. I mean, if you got clove off of the flagship, this is more walking into a spice cabinet or a cinnamon broomstick. You're taking a big whiff of it.
Yeah, this is. Well, and I'm just getting as I nose this, just these characteristics that are hallmark of old whiskeys. Some really nice buttery notes. It's that butter against the char. It is that serious spice. But this is really, I mean, I can tell just because I love your whiskey so much that it has the DNA of the Kings County, but it's such a different level. I mean, there's this, and there's a serious finish. This finish is big.
Yeah, and.
It's robust. Man, that's good.
Yeah, it was a nice discovery. I mean, it's obviously you never quite know, what you're going after, and we were again tasting this year over year. But one thing I would say about it is it's 107 proof, so it's not quite barrel strength. We did reduce it a little bit from that, but compare it to any other. Even 100 proof whiskey, this is a much smoother whiskey than that. Typically from a column still or a commercial product, it just is a smooth drinker for the proof that it is. And I think that's true of all of our whiskeys, but that gets magnified with age. And so to make a whiskey that you can just sip very nonchalantly, that's 53.5, that's, I don't know if that's what you're after as a distiller,
right.
But it's a nice thing to be able to have a sip of whiskey and have it be such high proof and not necessarily getting those, again, solventy acetone notes to it.
Well, and it doesn't, it's though it's very warm, it doesn't, I mean, to me, it doesn't drink like it's 107. I mean, not that there's anything wrong with 107, but it drinks closer to that 90 aroma, as you were saying. When you first decided this, I mean, you've been following these two barrels 4 years, 5 years. How have you watched them change? How have they changed? In your mind as you're watching.
Yeah. So at 4 years there was a great brightness and a corn forwardness. I compare it. It was comparable to like a Four Roses sort of small batch which is in my mind, like one of the kind of quintessential Kentucky bourbons. It really shared a lot with bourbon at its peak. But it was designed to be able to go further. And so knowing that we could really extend this one out, we have plenty of bourbon that kind of was in that profile. And then at 5 years, it got a little more wood forward. So less of the brightness, more of the wood forward. And then here you just get that crazy long finish, that kind of almost, it's got a molassesy, almost peanut brittle, toffee.
Yeah, I get candied.
Yeah, candied, but just spice. And wood. I mean, it's heavily, it's a heavy oaked whiskey. That's as far as I understand from the market. That's a lot of what bourbon hunters are into right now. Is that like really strong oak profile. I tried it next to some Russell's Reserve, some Knob Creek. It's those are its peers in the sort of age category, and maybe this is punching a little bit above its weight in terms of age. But then on the flavor side, you get that the finish is just, it's hard to beat that finish. And that's what makes it really cool for me. But
no, you're absolutely right. And this just really the sugars against the char on the nose, there's this really pristine, very elegant sugar that I think is also the char speaking some, and the flavor too. I mean, it's just a very pure but yet delicate sugar that comes through with all those flavors.
One thing I don't know if we've ever talked about, but I have this theory that a lot of what makes old whiskey good is not necessarily the age of the maturation, but it's the age of the wood itself, where the sap will begin to, it becomes something else over time. And so to have a barrel, they just physically look different. They look older. The wood is gray instead of brown or beige when you first get the barrel.
Right.
So you've got the deterioration that happens just physically to the wood that it's being stored in, and that has a very interesting impact on the whiskey. And it would be fun to take this barrel and then reuse it to try and make a corn whiskey and see how much of that flavor is coming from the age of the whiskey versus the age of the wood.
So again, it's not only the whiskey itself, but the wood as it sits there and ages itself along with the whiskey, or just ages period.
Ages period. A lot of our barrels are, they sit in the yard at the cooperage for 24 months. So it's aged before it even becomes a barrel. Then the wood is aged simultaneously with the whiskey. And then you have Scotch whiskeys where they're buying American wood that's, let's say, anywhere from 4 to 10 years old. And then they're aging Scotch for another 12 to 18 years. By the end of that process, that wood is so old and, very different flavors out of a barrel that's been around for 30 years than a barrel that's been around for 2 years, as they are when they come to us. So that's an interesting factor that not a lot of people are talking about in American whiskey, certainly, and one that I hope future, as we have some of this older wood cooperage that we can reuse for our own projects, already sort of the wheels are turning that we can play with these, used barrels and do something fun with them.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And again, the way to get a bottle of this, if you're watching and you're like, how do I find a bottle? You do it through the website. It goes live at, you said 12 noon this Wednesday?
12 noon, high noon, Wednesday, October 14th. That's soon, 2 short days. And it's a distillery exclusive. So although we're distributed in 20 some odd states, this is just coming through the distillery, and due to pandemic era sort of permissions, we can distribute it to any address in New York State, or you can pick it up at the distillery itself. We'll hold it for you for some time. But one thing I should also say while we're talking about distribution is that since we last spoke, we have now signed on with an e-commerce partner, sort of like Drizzly or Caskers, if you know those places. This will connect you to a retailer close to you and is a way for us to reach consumers in 40 states. So whereas at one time you had to go through a Drizzly, a minibar, or just find a liquor store that carried us, which in the scheme of things for a small distillery was not a lot of places. Now, if you just go to our website, you order it, it gets delivered to you, not as fast as Amazon, but it'll get there in a reasonable amount of time.
Right.
You can now get it shipped to, I believe it's 40 states, maybe.
Oh, wow.
42 states.
And that's on your website too.
Direct to our website. Now, obviously, we're not shipping it to you. We're going through an e-commerce partner that will connect you to a legal shipper that will fulfill that order. I have to be, clear to sort of articulate what's going on behind the scenes, but it's a way that effectively looks like our website. It will get to you as though it were coming from us. It does come from us. We just deliver it to those places. But that's been such a hurdle for us, just reaching the people who know our brand.
They want to try it places. They may not be able to always find it, but
even a place like California or Texas, where we do have some distribution, but still the audience is probably bigger than always the distributor, the retailer realizes.
Right.
So Ohio is a great one. I know a lot of people are fans of the business from Ohio, and Ohio is a very tricky state to go into as a small distiller. Forget about it. Never going to happen. But we can ship to you if you're in the state of Ohio. So that's a new opportunity for people.
That is very exciting.
Yeah, it's cool.
No matter where you're watching from, if you're watching and you want to try, you can't find it. Maybe it is like in California, but you can't find it really close to your town. You can go onto their website. You can have it shipped to you. And so many great options, so many great bourbons, from the chocolate bourbon, the peated bourbon, the regular bourbon, so many nice options in the core there, but also the one-offs and the limited editions that are a lot of times distillery only, like this one. Again, you have to either be in New York or be able to have someone that picks it up on your behalf, is in New York, gets into New York.
You just need somebody has to be able to get to New York.
Has to go pick it up. And once it hits sell on Wednesday, this may only last a few minutes online.
We should talk about, it's $149 for this bottle. So it's a commitment in terms of price, and I'm price sensitive as much as anybody. So I've seen, but you look at sort of the peer set, and what at these days, the world of bourbon has changed very much since when I was coming up, and anything, I was Weller 12 was $23, and anything more than that, it's like, try to take me for a ride here. Yeah. The ground has changed in the pricing of American whiskey. And I think this is pretty consistent with, it's a very limited run. It's a very unique whiskey. Nothing else like it. So that's a fair price. So, but it'll go fast. I don't know if it'll go as fast as minutes, but hours, it could be gone on Thursday. So if you are contemplating a purchase, it won't, I can't promise it'll be around very long. Be
at your computer and
we do have a limit of 2 bottles per customer, and we're trying to make sure as many people get it as possible.
Sure.
So yeah.
So once you get on there, you log on, you buy it, you pick it up. There's not going to be any standing in line outside, though. It's all done digitally. Is that right?
I mean, if you do stand outside at noon, we will be staffed at the gatehouse.
So you can get it there too.
So you can get it at the gatehouse, but we sort of encourage people to buy it online, and then just as long as you say pick up later, you've made your transaction, and you don't have to really wait. There's really no reason to wait in line, provided you can log on to the computer.
Right. No. It's so good. And again, pick it up in person, or if you happen near the gatehouse one, you can get it there. And how is everything at the distillery? What does it look like? Is it some tours happening? Since we last talked, I'm not sure if I remember.
Yeah. Good. So New York State New York City is open for outdoor dining for sure. There's some people who can do we could be doing indoor dining. Indoor, we don't do any dining. We just do drinking. So, but the gatehouses are not super well set up for the pandemic era. So we're still doing everything outdoors. No distillery tours right now, but we do offer tasting classes on Wednesdays. Material as a tour, so you can still visit the distillery. You can go to the tasting room, have a cocktail, have a flight. If you go on Wednesday and Saturday, you can have an experience. But we're still fairly restricted, and in a way, it's tough as a small business. So our hope is to really encourage people to support us through buying bottles online.
Right.
Now with the 40 state shipping is a real opportunity, I think, for a lot of people who've been tracking our brand for a long time. Maybe you've never gotten to try it. There's no excuse anymore. I mean, if you live in Michigan, you have an excuse. Or if you live in, Alabama and Mississippi, I don't think we ship there. But that's really the biggest opportunity for us, and what we're hoping people take advantage of as we go into the holiday season. This is a really, I'm very proud of the handmaidedness of all of our whiskeys, the independence of our business. We're not owned by anybody else. So
right. I mean, anybody else, that is right. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we don't have anybody who's Jack Daniels or Diageo or any big spirits company that's telling us we need to make something other than what we make. We make whiskey that we love. Everybody on staff does it because, we're here for the whiskey, not necessarily the paycheck. And I think that shows in all of our products, and it's something that I feel is very important to us as a business. But it means we're more at risk for unusual moments in our history, like a pandemic, and we don't have the corporate backing of one of those companies, so we depend on people supporting small business. And now and through the holiday season is a great time to act on your impulses to support smaller independent players.
It's so important to do that, and definitely is so important that if you are a fan of craft whiskeys, no matter where you're at, check out Kings County, any of their products, all of their products, and especially if you are there in New York and you have this special opportunity to either pick up a bottle, or again, if you're within the state, for this particular release, you can send this within the state, right?
Right. And I'll say, if you're out of state, there are two whiskeys that we have in inventory that are not going to last very much longer. Okay. Those are the Barrel Strength and the Bottled in Bond. These are classic Kings County whiskeys, but we only make, about 250 cases twice a year of each variety. And the Barrel Strength was short this year. So both of those whiskeys will sell out before Christmas. So if you have not tried those and you want to, you should just go online and just
go get those.
Make it happen now. Because
order them online, pick them up, or they're available there at the gatehouses, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. And say it once again. I know you're not doing the tours now, but was it Wednesday, Saturday people can come by?
Wednesday evenings and Saturday at 2 and 5, we do 3 and 5. We do a kind of tasting class where we walk through a flight of whiskeys. It's all outside. It's, capped at 12 so that we don't have, too many bodies and too little space. But it's been great. I mean, people have really come out for it, and it's New York got hit very hard early on, and I think New York is also very cautious relative to other territories, and so we're abiding by the levels of safety within New York, which is pretty high.
Right. No, that's so important. So Wednesdays and Saturdays. Otherwise, through the week, is there anything else that's happening at Gatehouses, or is
we do all kinds of events. We have a trivia night coming up. I believe that actually might be this particular Wednesday. Various different cocktail classes, history events. We're going to do a history of moonshine that I'm going to lead myself with Max Watman, the author. Hopefully, if we can pull it together, it's not set in stone yet, but we want to keep connecting with people because this is a hard time to be connected, and I think that's true everywhere. It's certainly true in New York. So taking the opportunity, we make whiskey. Whiskey was made to be consumed with other people. It works on its own. You can drink it by yourself too, but it's more fun when there's other people around.
Oh yeah, and a beautiful outdoor area there at Gatehouses too to take a cocktail or whiskey too, and the cocktails they are so phenomenal. Really always enjoy being there with the gang from Kings County, and such a special place and such a special whiskey and people. And this is dynamite. This 7-year-old is just, it's just really, cool. Yeah, just the depth of character, the knowing what you already do, but just knowing this is so much older and the time it's spent there, the history behind this. This is going to be truly a collectible. So hopefully, if you're a fan of Kings County's whiskey, you're going to find out in time to.
Even if you're not a fan, it's a wonderful.
You're going to become one if you get into this. Yeah. I love just trying it against the regular. I mean, I think it's so important that if you do get a bottle of this, get a bottle of the regular. Go back and it's so interesting to me to see how they progress.
I should say a lot of people, knew us in the beginning when we were using small barrels. We had a 1-year-old bourbon, and if you haven't been paying attention to Kings County in the last 3 years, you've missed a little bit of our evolution and maturation, not just in terms of how our whiskeys have evolved and matured, but just as a business, we've kind of reached more people. We have large format bottles, which took us a long time to get going. So if you haven't been paying attention to Kings County, didn't know about us, it would be great to dive back in, because I think we've really made some whiskeys that I think meet our own expectations of who we want it to be as a distillery. And for me, as the person who's been kind of there from day one, it's very gratifying to kind of be able to finally, as I'm an older man, 10 years, it's a chunk of life. And you've been with us the whole time, and you know what it's like. But it adds up to something. And by God, I hope we're doing the same thing when we come out with our 17-year-old in 2030 or whenever that may be. So it's a fun project to kind of be there throughout. And we've always been in it for the very long term, and that is evidenced by this whiskey and whiskeys yet to come. And
showcasing this one does showcase that in a phenomenal way, Colin. And so as you look towards older releases, are you going to do like say an 8-year-old next year, or are you just going to kind of see when it's ready? Is that what the plan is? Well, this year we had 2 barrels. Next year I think we have something on the order of like 15 to 20 barrels. The year after that, I think we have 25. We have 50 barrels coming due, of which we'll probably want to pull somewhere around 25. Okay. So I want to take half of any of the 7+ year inventory. Roughly 50% of that will release as a 7-year or in that range, and then the rest of it will kind of hold for as long as that takes. And but we're never going to be. I saw Heaven Hill is coming out with a 37-year-old bourbon or something like that. I don't imagine us ever doing that. I mean, I can see a 12-year, maybe an 18-year, maybe when I'm close to death, we'll have a 25-year-old. But it's not the game that we're really playing. We're playing make great whiskeys, hold some for fun, and this is certainly the first of those whiskeys that we've been holding for fun. And hopefully there are some other fun ones coming up. Oh yeah, I'm sure there will be, and this one's the more I'm tasting it, the more I mean it's those old elements. I mean, when we think about every year, just came out, I guess, a month ago, the antique collection and those elements that you get on those really old whiskeys. And as I taste this one, Colin, I mean, this one to me goes a lot further, just like your flagship goes so much further than 7. I mean, I'm seeing like the 12, the 13. I mean, if I had to guess this, I would guess it so much older. And I know a big part of that is just the talent you all have there, and just what you've done so well for so long. Yeah, well, I appreciate that, and certainly, don't take our word for it. Buy it, taste it blind, put it in the lineup with the antique collection. Some of your favorites. Weller 12 is a favorite of mine, and I'm always comparing our whiskey to that. Even Knob Creek is an easy bottle to find and easy to compare with. So that's a fun game. We play it at the distillery all the time. Blind tasting. We're happy for people to do that with our whiskeys. Oh yeah, this one definitely is on that level, I think, of the Buffalo Trace Antique. I mean, just really striking that. If you know one, and then you know how much older it can taste. This is perfect. I'm really excited about this. I'm so thrilled to try this with you, and I'm again all the celebrating you guys have been able to do, especially during the pandemic. Yeah, your 10th anniversary. Congratulations to you, and hopefully many, many more years to come of great whiskey there in Brooklyn.
Yeah, sounds great.
Colin, thank you. This is great. And definitely, again, I'll put the website up here one more time. Wednesday, noon Eastern time. Otherwise, all the other whiskeys, try those too. Go by and see them if you're there in person. And what else? What else? Anything else coming up? What else are you looking forward to? Is in the world of whiskey? Is in just as you look forward to the holidays? Anything else you're looking forward to?
Well, we have holiday season. We do a lot of gift packs.
Right.
Where we do, get 3 different whiskeys, 5 different whiskeys. We do virtual tastings. So if your company or your group of friends that you always want to hang out with, you got a birthday coming up that you don't get to celebrate properly, people are all spread out, you don't have an opportunity to get together. These virtual tastings are a way for people to kind of, sample through all the different things that we do. Right. So that's been a big piece of our business, and will continue through to the holidays. And we got a couple things that we're cooking. Nothing to talk about probably just yet, but different finishes that we've played with. And then we're always working on stuff. We like to be. We're a little restless, a little creative, so there's stuff coming. But the biggest thing to happen, I should say, before Christmas will be our Empire Rye coming back in stock. That's been out of stock pretty much everywhere. You can get it in Connecticut at Canterbury Liquor Scoop. Bought the rest of the stock. But it's our most beloved whiskey that's made in the smallest quantity. And that because the rye harvest and when those barrels are all together to make a blend from it, that's coming out end of December. So that's the next thing to look for in terms of a major release from us.
End of December.
Well, no, sorry. First week of December, I hope to God it's going around to distributors and retailers. So by the time you get to Christmas, it'll be in stock. You'll have, 7 shopping days to purchase your Empire Rye before Christmas. But that's also, January, if you're looking for a great whiskey to pick up, it's probably still going to be in inventory in most places. So that's something to look for.
I always love the Empire Rye, so we'll be watching for that, and we'll definitely bring you back on here on Bourbon Blog Live and try some rye with you. Then always great whiskeys to look forward to with Colin Spoelman and the team there at Kings County Distillery in Brooklyn. Thanks for the chance to be the first live tasting to taste the 7-year-old with you. This is beautiful stuff, Colin. Cheers.
Yep. Thank you, Tom. Until the next one.
Cheers, my friend.
Cheers.
Thank you.